Welcome to the Good and Plenty podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Goodman. First of all, happy holidays. Merry Christmas to all who celebrated Christmas. Remember the podcast every Tuesday and Thursday, Good and Plenty. This week we have special guests, plural. I've said I'm not going to bring on coaches to just ask formulaic questions to and make it that type of podcast. That's not what we're about here. We're about entertainment and information. Trust me, these guys we have on today, far from boring. Arizona State head coach, former Duke star Bobby Hurley, and his brother, new UConn head coach, former Seton Hall star, I guess we can call him that, Danny Hurley. First of all, subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher. You can go to CLNS Media. You can find me at Goodman Hoops on Twitter. You can also find me on WatchStadium.com. But I'm not going to waste a bunch of your time blabbering here before about maybe, how bad the Pac-12 is or anything like that. We're just going to discuss it with the torchbearer right now of the Pac-12 and his brother, Arizona State coach Bobby Hurley and UConn coach Danny Hurley. Here we go. Quick break to tell you today's show is also brought to you by Mint Mobile. There's nothing better about the holiday season than unwrapping a brand new phone until you get hit with your brand new monthly bill. Big wireless providers can really suck the joy out of the holidays. So this year, don't just upgrade your phone. Upgrade your wireless provider and switch to Mint Mobile. For a limited time, Mint Mobile is offering the best holiday deal in wireless you've ever seen. 3 months of service for only $20. Mint Mobile's holiday deal is here for a limited time. $20 total gets you 3 months of wireless service with 5 gigabytes of 4G LTE data each month, plus unlimited talk and text. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan. You can keep your old phone number along with all your existing contacts. Mint Mobile runs on the nation's fastest, most advanced LTE network. And if you're not 100% satisfied, Mint Mobile has you covered with their 7-day money-back guarantee. Take advantage of this Mint Mobile holiday deal before it's gone. Get 3 months of wireless for $20 and get the plan shipped to your door for free by going to mintmobile.com/good. That's mintmobile.com/good. 3 months of service, just $20 at mintmobile.com/good. Guys, I always said I wasn't going to bring boring-ass coaches on here and ask, what about your team and this guy and this win. But you guys get a return engagement. Bobby, Danny Hurley, it must have mean you did something right. I guess you didn't suck was the biggest thing.
It's a hit.
That's all I can say.
There we go.
All right. So first of all, can I start out? I'm going to start out coming guns blazing. All right. I'm going to ask Bobby Hurley, defend the damn Pac-12. I went to Arizona. I can't defend the damn Pac-12. So I'm going to have you try to defend the Pac-12 right now.
Well, Jeff, I think everyone, everyone's running their own race right now. I think once we get to league play, then we'll be a conference again. Until then, we're just kind of independent contractors right now. So that's how I view Arizona State. I follow the Pac-12. I root for the Pac-12. It hasn't come together the way I think collectively we would have hoped for. I think the coaches talked about, trying to do a better job in the non-conference to give our league a chance to get more bids, but we've been a little bit inconsistent, with that. But there are still elite teams. I think Oregon, if they get healthy and some of their key incoming freshmen, would play at the level they were projected to play at, that they would be another team. I think UCLA is fairly youthful as well. Arizona had to reshape their whole team, losing so much last year, so. It's been a transitional year for the league.
Dan, I got a great story for you. A few years ago, I think it was Bob's first year at Arizona State. I'm on SportsCenter, and I'm doing a segment with Matt Berry. Matt Berry went to Arizona State, and you guys weren't very good. And I took a shot, a funny shot, but I killed Arizona State. So later that day, I get a call from one of Bobby's assistants saying, he's pissed, man. He's pissed. I said, what do you want me to do here? What do you want me to do? You guys do stink. And now it's funny because now, as an Arizona grad, I've ordered some Sun Devils gear, and I think I'm going to start wearing it after the new year. And I might be completely disowned from Tucson. Like I may never be able to go back to Tucson.
Jeff, Santa didn't bring you anything for Christmas, right? Jeff, did Santa bring you anything for Christmas?
What do you think I deserve? What do you think I deserve for Christmas?
Scully.
I mean,
Arizona State Scully, man.
I was hoping to get some of your mushroom coffee.
Hey, Bob's force of will, could cause people to become Arizona State fans. I mean, and then like his just force of will, like his will is so strong. And then the other thing I'll say is that, they always say, people that are great at things or, they're always looking for things internally or externally to like motivate them and drive them and push them to stay on edge and to prepare that extra and to compete, that extra possession or to be more locked in. And like, I think Bob takes that to that absolute highest level. Bob will take any type of internal or external thing that's going on and use it to like drive himself, drive his team. And I think that like really successful people, they have over things like that.
What did you do after the win against Kansas to celebrate, Bob? And like, how long did that last? I mean, I know you're a miserable human being, and you thrive on that misery. So like, how long do you allow yourself to celebrate after a win like that?
Well, you feel exhausted after, what you put into that. It's, I think 2 or 3 days going into that game, it felt like the 2 or 3 days before Selection Sunday, just in terms of prepare your team on the practice floor, the stress, the pressure, because in a normal Pac-12 season, if we would have beat Mississippi State on a neutral and, we won a tournament in Vegas, we had an SEC road win, and we were sitting there at 8-2, you'd feel pretty good regardless of the outcome of Kansas. But, I put more pressure on myself just because I knew I didn't think there would be a ton of quality wins in our conference where, it was almost like a must win. I felt like when you're trying to build a program and you hope that it could be something special, that it was like a signature moment for our program. Like we needed it to deliver for our fans, for the play practice floor and go to war with you. It's, it was amazing just yesterday, after a few days off for the holiday and the kids went home, just to see how hard they practiced yesterday, just because, you're able to capitalize on a big win like that. And then you see the residual benefits and guys just wanting to get in there and get better and looking for the next test.
Dan, your wife told me last year, I think it was your wife, it might have been somebody else, that you've been known to hide under a desk before a game. Has that gone on at all at UConn? I know you've got a tough, you won't say it, but I will for you, that it's certainly a rebuild. UConn doesn't have the talent that they're used to, that their fans are accustomed to. How difficult has that been for you, I guess, to try to get UConn Nation to kind of understand that, hey, it's not going to happen this year. We're still a ways away.
Well, I'm not at a desk before the game. I've graduated to, like a couch or a chair or on the floor beside the desk. So I'm not actually under the desk anymore. Maybe after the game.
You've matured.
Yeah, at the Garden the other day, I found myself after a desk during a 19-0 run in the second half. That was, completely demoralizing. But, listen, these are great fans. These are smart fans. They've seen some of the best college basketball teams, some of the best college basketball players the last 25 years. I think we all understand what this is. We're trying to rebuild a championship organization, one of the best brands in college basketball. And, with where it's been the last couple of years, it's not, going to happen instantly for us. We obviously got to, we got to build the talent base back up. The great teams here were kind of filled with NBA prospects and obviously athletic, aggressive teams, but it's building a talent base. It's building a culture where it's like high-end work ethic, and you're detail-oriented in your prep, and you've got that will to win, and it's just it's a culture where day in and day out, people are pushing each other to be at their best because, at a place like this, obviously there's championship expectations, and we're going to go hard at our conference this year. We're going to push these guys to play at the absolute best level that we can, and try and put ourselves in a position to play in the postseason. So I think in a place like this, you can't make excuses. You can't run from any expectations. You got to embrace, the expectation that you have to try to find a way to win every time you take the floor at UConn.
Give me your best Christmas stories. A source close to Bob told me that your in-laws came in and there was something involving a chair with your in-laws. I don't know exactly what that means, but give me your best Christmas stories.
A chair with my in-laws.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one of my few possessions. I have it's a lazy boy. It's my area. It's my domain. My wife has most of the house, and that's my area. But my uncle-in-law, wasn't following the proper protocols with that over the holidays. And there was several pictures of him sitting in my chair, whether I was there or not there. So he showed no respect to the chair. So we're going to have to straighten that out.
Did you stomp your foot? Did you stomp your foot at him when you caught him in the chair?
I was playing a board game with my daughters on Christmas, and I looked over and he was in the chair. So I just, fired over a dirty look and shared it with my assistant coach, Coach Berno, just to let him know how my Christmas was going. And so that's that story. I'm not sure if it's that great of a story, but I'm hopeful that we could square this away in the future and my wife could get her family under control here.
Danny, any good Christmas stories at the Hurley house? Who had your dad this Christmas?
I had him, and it was a day and a half after the Villanova second half meltdown. So we had to kind of we hadn't had a chance to kind of go over that whole game and relive all the highs and mostly lows of that second half. So that was nice to kind of go back through that after finally getting over it after 36 hours. And then I've got a contentious relationship with my wife's Yorkie, Ava. It's been that way. I don't know, she's around 11 or 12 years old now, the dog. And there's only one room in the house that the dog is not allowed in. And that's the room where I like to unwind and watch TV on the couch. And that's where the Christmas tree is set up. So on Christmas morning, we went to open up the gifts, and I went to go grab a present for my son, and the dog jumped out from underneath the tree in the room that's not allowed to be in, and scared the hell out of me and sent me and kind of ruined Christmas morning for me.
That was it. So you're going to keep the dog, though. You're not getting rid of the dog at 11. Your wife will win that battle.
No, we'll keep that one. I like the boxer, Amari. It's got like a shooting sleeve. I named it after Amari Stoudemire.
Nice.
I literally got the dog right as Amari was coming to the Knicks. So
that worked out well.
Got the boxer.
The Amari.
Yeah, boxer's much better. More of a man's dog.
Yes,
the boxer.
Sounds it. I got
a
lab
in the
mix.
neighborhood.
Yeah, I got a lab mix. I'm with you. I go with kind of the bigger dogs. Grew up with can terriers, and I can't. The yappy little dogs. I need to be able to throw a dog around, wrestle, run the dog. So.
Yeah.
All right. So who's got the crazier superstitions between you two?
Well, I mean, I saw Dan firsthand, at Wagner and Rhode Island, and kind of, I could see he had a lot of superstitions and things he did, routines, rituals, day of the game. He would go get, I believe it was M&M's, Dan, right? And
Always.
And vitamin water. You used to get some type of candy. You'd always go to the pharmacy.
Blue. Yeah. So
blue vitamin water.
12
so I
M&Ms.
saw those. I just, now I have my whole thing with, Red Bull before the game, Diet Cokes throughout most of the game. I'll go and shave at a certain time, right before the game, a few hours before. I'd go to my office for a few hours alone to reflect, on what's about to take place. Shoot around. I mean, the day kind of flies by. It's nothing out of the ordinary, though. I don't think.
Dan, what do you got now?
I had so like M&Ms, Bob mentioned that, plain M&Ms, only like color, like no colors of the opposing team that I'm playing. So if I'm playing Syracuse, I can't have an orange M&M. Like it's got to be any other color besides. So that's bizarre. There's clothing, like ties, socks, and underwear. Ties, socks, underwear, and then sometimes suits. Like if we have a particularly bad performance with a certain tie, or if somebody buys me a tie for Christmas and the tie, I wear that, and we have a really bad performance, like that tie is done. Or underwear or socks. I have clothing things where if a tie or if socks fail me in a game, then they'll never come back out. So same prayer pregame, same prayer every pregame at the same time, like that hour before the game, same pregame, like when we shoot a free throw, early in the game, I'll kneel. And then if we miss that free throw, I may try a different posture. I may stand up and cross my arms. And if we miss it again, then I may put my hands in my back pocket and lean against the scorer's table. I just keep trying things at the foul line.
Yeah.
It seems like right now.
I love watching.
The only other thing with me, Jeff, my wife, Leslie, she's involved in this stuff too now, to where, she picks out my suit. I've never, really, I don't think I've picked out a suit since I've been a head coach, or a shirt or a tie. She does that. She dresses me like a child at these games. And then, she'll pack my bag, with my toiletry bag and my shoes and socks and then my championship ring that I wear, my Duke ring that I wear at the game, she puts that in my bag. And then my music for when I go sit out. That's the one thing. I'll go an hour before every game. I go out and I watch warm-ups for about 5 minutes. And then as soon as the clock starts to 60, I know the countdown's starting. So I'm out of there. I'll go back inside again.
And you guys,
I may do that too. I may try.
Free throws too.
Free throws,
yeah. Free throws. I always sit there and free throws. I don't know why. I just don't want anyone moving around on my bench when my players are free throws right across from us. I hate when one of my assistant coaches stands up during the free throw, or if they yell something during the opposing player taking the free throw. I've had coaches that have done that. I don't feel that's proper etiquette.
Can I say two things, please?
Coaches, I hate when my assistant coach, last thing, I hate when my assistant coach say, hey, that's a shooter, get to him, he can shoot. I don't want any player on the other team to think they could shoot the ball.
So don't say he's a shooter.
Don't say. Yeah. Along those lines, can I just say something too? I've had at least 5 times this year where I've had to turn and say something to an assistant coach because in scouting, you have guys that, like Bobby say, non-shooter, at least 4 or 5 times this year, as non-shooters have been taking shots and we've closed out late and gotten a late contest. I've had assistant coaches say good defense, non-shooter, and then the other team has splashed it. They make it every single time. So now we have a rule that you're not allowed to talk when people on the other team are rising and firing. And then Andrea also too. She does the pregame candy with a poem for home games. So Leslie's gotten dragged into the superstitions, and Andrea has too, to the point where she's up all night writing poems that could potentially inspire
So you
the
read
Huskies, the Rams, and the Seahawks.
Do you read the poems?
I do not. I have not read one of them. I just literally, like, by that point, when shoot-around's over, I just hand them out, give them a fist bump, and I just send them on their way because I don't want to look at them anymore. I don't want to see them until the game starts.
But you do dress yourself. I mean, that's this is, I mean, Danny over Bobby in the attire department. You can actually dress yourself.
Yeah, no, I've matured to a level where I do pick out my own clothes.
Good job, Bobby.
I do get help with an occasional tie.
All right, well, we all do. Listen, most of us guys need help matching, right? But
pocket square.
Yeah.
If I'm going to go, maybe I would need. If I ever go with pocket square, I would probably need some help with that.
Bobby, and I don't know if Dan, you do this too, but whenever Bob argues with a ref, or I won't say argue, when you converse with a ref, because you never argue, you always have your hands behind your back. When did that start, and why did that start? I find it absolutely entertaining.
I mean, no, my players seem to like that. You know, the guys that I've coached, they know where I'm at when the hands go behind the back. You know, it kind of amuses them because I'm kind of restraining myself. But it's more of like I was told very early to stop pointing at me and to stop gesturing. And so, like, I figured, heck, let's try this because then I could still say what I need to say, and I don't get distracted by the official telling me to stop moving my hands around. So I just figured I'd make it a little simpler for everybody.
Dan, what do you do?
He looks like
you don't do that, right?
He looks like a speed skater sometimes, right?
Yes.
The way he's like leaning forward.
Apollo Ono, yeah, like Apollo Ono a little bit, where he's got he's in that pose, right? He's in that pose where behind his back and he's ready to go.
Yeah, for me, it depends on the crew a lot of time. I think, you know, like if it's a crew that I've had and it's kind of, you know, like used to, you know, I don't know, like, you know, coaches that are coaching every possession and kind of are fully engaged in, you know, in the game with them. I mean, it depends. It's like, you know, but I do have a hard time controlling my hands. I don't do the speed skater. If I'm befuddled by something, I'll use my hands in whatever manner I feel like it's appropriate at the time. You know, I don't, you know, it just depends on the crew. Like every night is different. Like Villanova, you know, like we had a veteran crew and I've had on several of my games, and as bad as we were playing at times and as frustrated as I might have been, you know, with the call from time to time, like it never got, you know, it never got out of hand with them because they, you know, a lot of those guys do a lot of Big East games. The coaches are very intense. The games are very intense. I think sometimes there's just a disconnect. I don't want to say cultural, but maybe a geographical disconnect in terms of how a guy from Jersey in the Northeast that grew up in Jersey City approaches competition in sports as opposed to a guy from somewhere else. I'll just say that.
When's the last time you guys played one-on-one? Do you remember? Like, did you used to play one-on-one all the time when you were kids? And like, have you ever done it as adults?
No.
No? Never?
No.
Like, how would that go? I know Bob's not as healthy. You know, Bob in his heyday would have kicked your ass. We know that, Dan. But, like, I don't know how – now you're like a workout –
Most – they weren't like one-on-one though, Bob. It was like most of the one-on-ones about senior, right? They were more like one-on-one.
Yes. Yeah. That was like before even high school. I think like that's when all of that ended for us. And I mean, if we played one-on-one now, I wouldn't care about who won. You know, if that makes sense, because I know it's over for me.
Yeah. You know? Right. You got nothing left.
Bob and my dad would battle like I don't know what the games were, if the game's 5 or 7. So like my dad would play Bob first. I was the youngest. and then I would get whoever was left standing after they would get out there and get after it. So like, I would always get the kind of the worn down version of either one of them, and I still couldn't beat either one of them because Bob was better than me, and my dad would just foul me or intimidate me into losing.
Were there like great battles, Bob, with you and your dad? And like, when did he stop playing you?
Well, I mean, once we were able to beat him, and then he would get mad because he lost, you know. And once that started to happen, then you know it was in everyone's best interest to stop doing it, you know. I mean, look, the only one-on-one I play right now is with Hurley is my son Bobby, who's 15, and we got a Nerf basket in the kitchen. We play kitchen hoops sometimes, and that's. I think I cracked a rib last night. Actually, Bobby lowered his shoulder into my rib cage, trying to get to the basket. So I avoid playing one-on-one. Yeah.
How much do you guys coach your kids? How much do you guys coach your kids now?
I mean, I try to coach them. Just, you know, as I try to coach like the types of like qualities that I want my children to, my two sons to, you know, to display as potentially like successful, well-rounded men. Yeah. You know, like I'm just all about like daily habits. You know, my youngest son Danny, like played some football, but you know didn't love the whole basketball thing. Maybe saw on some level the level of suffering at times maybe wasn't appealing to him, so he took a pass. And Andrew plays at East Catholic, here in Connecticut, you know, one of the better high school programs in the state and throughout the region here. So I find myself like trying to give him like more advice on how to show up every day, just as a member of the team who a coach would respect, and just try to be like, you know, not their coach, but you know, their dad, and just try to help them with like the daily habits that like, you
work
know,
ethic.
Again, like
work ethic.
Yeah,
stuff like
work ethic, communication, like setting standards for excellence, even if it's not in basketball, but in the areas of their lives that they're going to put their passion into.
I mean, I agree there with Dan. My daughter, my oldest daughter, is a great student. She graduated from Duke. She is a great kid. She's got a great work ethic. She's in the workforce right now, just a normal person working. Very supportive of what I do. And my middle daughter, Sydney, is pretty athletic and a good soccer player and played a little bit of basketball. And she's a student as well. And, and my son Bobby is, he and I are inseparable, during the season. And even years ago when I was in Buffalo, I would take Bobby with me on road trips and take him out of school for a few days, which wasn't always appreciated by his teachers. But, we formed an amazing bond. He asked me to work him out, and we'll do it and enjoy that time together. But the best thing is he's got a great soul, a great heart, like all my kids do. And my wife has done an outstanding job. They're always the undervalued part of a family unit. Is my wife, Leslie, just her emphasis on academics and being a good person, a good student has been number one priority. And all my kids understand they got to perform academically. And it's helped them, like Dan touched on, just being, a well-rounded person. Yeah,
to be married to a Hurley. Like, how do you even describe that?
Bob, I mean, it's right. For Andrea, my wife, who wasn't a sports person at all. Like, she was a freshman my senior year at Seton Hall. She never went to the games. I think she went to my one game senior day, UConn at a home. Ray Allen, that crew there. Obviously, bad senior day for me. That was the only game she ever went to, and she saw me at my absolute worst on the court. So that obviously is true love, though. She knew there wasn't going to be any payout in terms of as a basketball player. Jeff, she knew the road was ending as soon as the Big East tournament was over for me, and that was the next week. But just being indoctrinated into the highs and lows, the roller coaster ride, the time commitment, like the effort that, and then so she's got to carry such a heavy load doing everything for our family, managing, the boys, managing me, paying the bill. Like, she does everything. And then on the flip side too, she also has to pick up the pieces sometimes in some of the relationships with my players here or at Rhode Island or Wagner. Whereas I come home and I'm complaining about X player. He just had the worst practice of all time. This guy stinks. He's a losing player. We're going to fail here. She's texting that kid that night.
Really?
Hang in there. Coach cares about you. He's just trying to get the best. So she does a lot of picking up the pieces after I've kind of gone scorched earth.
Bob, what's it like for Leslie?
Same thing as Dan's saying. Just the highs and the lows that you go through in our business, and whenever she can, she travels. So she's always kind of behind the bench. So I'm used to her, especially at home games. She's sitting right behind the bench. So when things are going bad, and there've been a number of those instances over the last few years at home, I kind of look over at her with this helpless look on my face, and she's just got, she can't help me, but she knows that I'm about to suffer and it's coming, and just dealing with that, dealing with the emotions of everything, and then she's underrated, undervalued. What Dan was talking about just kind of being a mom away from home for a lot of these kids, like when we have functions at the house, which we try and do on a regular basis, having a team out of home a lot so that they have a comfort level with all of us, and besides what we're doing on the basketball court. And I think she provides a lot of that for our players.
All right, Bob. So JJ Redick told me in the preseason, I don't know how we got to it, but he said he really doesn't want to coach, but there's one job that he'd want to coach, and that's Duke. My question to you is, hypothetically, let's say Coach K retires and he says, I want you to be the guy. I asked Tommy Amaker this question also. What would you say if he came to you and said, I want you to be the guy?
Yeah, I don't know how I would respond to that at this point. And it's like what we talk about, we're all in the moment and staying in the moment of what we're doing. And, our family has really enjoyed living in Arizona, and we love the weather. We love the things you could do outdoors. My daughter's a junior at Arizona State, and I'm not sure what Bobby's college plans are going to want to be or what he's going to want to do, but I know we're kind of building life out here, and we like it out here. So it's very difficult, and like Dan's beginning to do right now, and he's going to get there soon. We finally got the program to the point where it's, we're recruiting at a high level. We're generating a fan base of people that are becoming more interested in what we're doing. So just really so enthusiastic about what I'm doing right now. It's hard for me to think about any other possibility.
Dan, you took over a program that, again, won 4 national titles in the last 20-ish years. Down the road is the guy who kind of the architect of it, Jim Calhoun, who I did something on, prior to the season. He's at St. Joseph's in West Hartford. What's your relationship with him like? How often is he at UConn now because he's coaching his own team? So how much interaction do you have with him this year?
Well, I had a ton of access to coach over the course of the summer and in the preseason. Obviously, coach has got a season going on, and as you can imagine, with coach's makeup and how incredibly successful he's been he's all in right now, with this season. So I don't have the same level of access. I don't have a chance to kind of swing by the office and pick his brain on things. But, he's been a really good mentor for me. He's not, it's similar to my dad. He's not going to offer up his opinion. You do have to ask for it and seek it out. But I think he sees the game in a very, very similar way to the way my dad saw it, in terms of the type of people he wants to go to battle with, the mentality. the makeup of the roster. Like, he wanted tough, athletic, guys that obsessed over winning and were just ballers, guys that played their hearts out and, played fearlessly but he, listen, he's on the Mount Rushmore of greatest college basketball coaches of all time, in my opinion. And, for me, he's a phone call away or a walk down the hallway, and I take advantage of that at every opportunity, especially when I'm searching or seeking. And you end up doing that a lot in the first year or two of a situation like this.
It's amazing. When I went into that gym at St. Joseph's, and it holds maybe like 450 people, and I'm just thinking I'm honestly thinking it's sad in a way that's where he's finishing his career, a Hall of Fame guy like that. But I don't think he looks at it that way. I think he just, when I asked him that, he said, I just want to coach again. Just want to coach. And I think, a guy who started out as a high school coach, and a lot of you guys did, right? I mean, that's where I met you, Dan, St. Benedict's, and, coaching's coaching, isn't it?
That's it. And coaches I remember at Mohegan, when Coach had his All-Star game for charity, and, he had Rip back, he had Ray back, he had Charlie, and all these guys back, and the game ends, and everyone's taking pictures and signing autographs, and Coach is out on the court in a circle huddle with his team, coaching them, on the charity game, on I guess who missed blockouts and who didn't get back, and that's just who Coach is. That's why he's, that's why he's one of the all-time greats.
Bob, I'm going to give you one serious question, and that's it, I promise, and then we'll go back to having a little fun to close this thing out. But about 25 years ago from this month was the, I guess, anniversary. I don't even want to call it an anniversary of your car crash that kind of, certainly changed your NBA career. How often do you still think about that? How much I'm assuming you're past it at this point, but, on a day like that, December 12th, what goes through your head 25 years later?
Just kind of try and survive the day. It's for some reason it would probably be obvious for most when you go through something very traumatic and very physically traumatic. The pain and the suffering that you went through in those moments, not knowing if you were going to make it, and just the physical pain and your body being in shock, and then just going through the aftermath of it, just picking up all the pieces and addressing all the injuries and the uncertainty about getting back to just living a normal life. So it was you think about that, you kind of reflect on it, you remember it. It's hard to avoid remembering it. And then I just there's things that happen if I get cut off on a road, or if someone is driving recklessly on the road, you can't help but get a little shaken up. I still do, so I have to be very careful, when I'm driving, just because of what that event, did to my life. So there are always constant reminders about it, but there were so many positives that came out of it in terms of getting to spend more time with Dan, back home as Dan was going through stuff and I was going through stuff. I think that brought us closer together as brothers. And then I had an opportunity to meet my wife then, and that's the reason I have my family. So, even in the worst thing that could really happen to you, you could sometimes find the real positive from it.
Yeah, people don't realize how close you guys actually are, do they? You guys call each other, text each other all the time. You're watching each other's games, every game, aren't you? Like it's your own.
For me, unless they put Bob, unless they put Bob on the second game, right, Bob? The Pac. Unless Bob is playing the 12:30 game and I have a game the next day, I may only be able to hang in for the first half, and then I'll pass out. So again, Pac-12 commissioner, help me out with scheduling. Can you give them more 8:30 games? Maybe even 9 o'clock starts. Oh, but you get to be a fan too. Like when I watch Bob's game against Kansas, almost I don't really watch it from a coaching perspective, although I do. Like I will rewind plays so that when I do talk to Bob later, like some of those critical plays that go on, win or lose, that kind of change the game, I may rewind and look at a missed block out or a travel call, or whatever it is. But it's like probably like one chance to just kind of look at a game from a fan perspective, basketball, because you never look at it that way, right, Bob? It's like if you're watching Gonzaga, Arizona, you're trying to steal ideas from Mark Few, but like Arizona State for me is like the one fandom basketball team for me.
Yeah, and then it gets the points get across to the players. When I was at both Buffalo and my first couple of years at Arizona State, I'm talking about Rhode Island basketball to my team. So my team, like, I'm bringing all these other people now that will break the huddle. Hey, I got to go watch Rhode Island. My brother's on. Check them out. So I'll have my guys, on my own team, focusing on that. I think we've had a couple of examples of players that we've coached that have gone and played in events like Jared Terrell and Shannon Evans, and they've shared stories about how crazy we both are, and they've gone back and forth on things that have happened in practices and things in the games and pre-game speeches, post-game. So they're going through all these. Like, no, he's worse than him. There's no way, So it's pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, I've showed film to our players about Dan's teams, just things that they were doing defensively that we weren't capable of doing in my first couple of years at Arizona State. So believe me, in so many ways, we're rooting for each other, and we're bringing a lot more people to follow each other's programs.
Bob, you missed it a few years ago. I emceed an event at the Mohegan Sun, and I actually got your brother to do the Icky Shuffle on the stage. There is video. There is video somewhere. I don't know if I still have it, but somebody still has it. It was a, that was fun. And then I try to get I try to get a laugh out of your former college coach, Bob. I don't know if Dan remembers. It didn't go so well.
No, I remember.
Do you remember?
No, I remember. It was buttoned up. I just felt the day I believe it was Mick, who's, he says that I don't talk to people 6 months out from a game. Like, I don't talk to any coaches on staff, which is just a bold-faced lie. I just talked to Darren Savino like 10 days ago from Cincinnati. So I proved Mick wrong there. But it was just, they were too buttoned up. I believe that was Coach K, Thad Mata, and Mick, and they were way too uptight the day before a game, and we needed somebody to just do something to bring a little pop to the event, and so we did it.
I think you should have to do the Icky Shuffle in front of your team. Try to maybe get them going. Maybe it'll shake some things up.
Well, we're starting practice. We're starting practice today with the second half of the Villanova game, so we may need something to uplift the spirits after that truth serum.
Does that mean longer meditation time after that Villanova game? Do you go a little bit longer than the 15-minute blocks that you usually do?
Hey, listen, there's no meditation in the world that's going to take away the pain of that type of performance. I mean, trust me, meditation is a game changer. It helps with the anxiety and the stress leading up. It helps keep your mind clear. It's just your mental health is so important, man. It's the greatest thing, best change I've ever made. But after a failure like that, there's nothing in the world that's going to make you feel better.
Bob, are you doing meditation? Has he gotten you to do meditation yet, or are you still not there?
No, I haven't been able to trick my body into realizing there's a way to take away the pressure and the anxiety and the pain that you feel leading into it inside. No, I haven't discovered that yet.
Can't do it yet. No. All right, before I let you go, last thing. The best story you guys have, either from your days coaching together at Wagner or dating back even as counselors at your dad's camp back in Rhode Island that night? I heard there were some good ones.
Ooh, highlight, Bob. Right, getting introduced to the world of highlight at a young age. Right.
People don't even know what highlight.
Wasn't that?
You realize that you say highlight. Most people have no idea. Like kids these days, does highlight even exist anymore?
Just discovering that world at 19 or however old we were, about 18, 21, actually 21, I'd imagine, right, Bob? So discovering that world of highlight right there was an experience. The bobble, right, guys would kind of try to maybe throw it sometimes by bobbling the ball, like what was a bobble, right? It was like that from camp. Wagner, Bob.
It had to be something good. Did you guys like ever get into like a drop down, like an actual, nose to nose argument with each other at Wagner, or no?
No, not at Wagner. No.
No.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I just sometimes I was too stubborn with my ideas. You know how you have an idea and then share the idea, and then no one says anything, or they just don't take that idea and run with it. So then you keep saying it over and over again, thinking that hey, maybe if I say this 3 or 4 times to Dan, that he might try it. So I think Dan had to say, hey, Bob, could you stop, please?
Yeah, exactly.
No, he would get mad at me. Bob would get mad at me if I wouldn't either run the wrinkle or the play or change or change the defense. I would say probably the one would be, Bob, remember when we lost to St. Peter's? St. Peter's had that good team that went to the NCAA tournament, lost to Purdue. We played them at home. I think we were up 2, maybe under 20 seconds, coming out of timeout, their ball, and we went zone. And that was probably one of the few times.
I told you to go zone, right?
Yeah, we went zone. You really wanted it. I was kind of on the fence about it. We went ahead and did it. What did they do? They went down and hit a 3.
Was that it? You were out of zone next possession?
No, the game was, we took a wild shot at the horn because then we were down 1. Okay. And then that was one of the few times where Bob Sr., I think, was critical of our coaching to our face.
Few, yes,
I'm sure. Bob? I think Bob, you called, or he called, I forgot, did he call you or did you call him just to get a sense of what he thought and said we're idiots for playing zone?
Yeah, I think that's what. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was said. Yeah.
You don't get that anymore.
The irony of this too is that now I'll have my assistant coaches requesting zone, and I see them down. Almost
waving them off
almost immediately.
So. Just waving them off.
Hey, Bobby, you guys are 31 in the net right now. I can't figure out the net. UConn's 92, but we're not even going to talk about that with Dan right now because they probably belong. They probably belong.
Hey, look, I don't want to, Jeff. I didn't want to get into this at all because I don't know what's going on with these computer numbers and how they come up with any. These guys that sit behind these computers and come up with these rankings based on all these numbers and stats. And I wish I knew it better and understood how they come up with it. It's foreign to me. I mean, you might as well just have a meteorologist do some of these these computer ranking systems and how they come up and rank teams. Based on all these numbers. And then there's a few people that do it. It's not only the net rankings. There are others out there doing this.
I don't get it. I mean, you just beat the number 1 team in the country. You played a brutal non-conference schedule. I've been there for a couple of your games. I mean, you played a good non-conference schedule. And again, you beat, whether they're number 1 or top 5 team in the country, how you're 31 again. I don't get it either. I don't get it. I hope as the season goes along, it gets better and better and a little bit more accurate. But generally, I'll kind of look at actual resumes, and I think that's usually the best way to get a feel, a combination of looking at resumes and who you beat. And I don't really care how many you beat them by. And oh, by the way, I don't give a shit about offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency when trying to figure out the best teams to the work. Like, to me, it's who you beat, where you beat them, and maybe how many you beat them by, but really it's who you beat and where you beat them for me.
I mean, I just thought our game, if you isolate the Kansas game and you just watched it, you had to say, like, hey, those two teams are really good.
Really good.
I mean, this guy Lawson is, he looks like Tim Duncan out there, and Vic's getting, making threes and getting fouled and, making plays everywhere. And, we're going toe to toe with a team like that. You just think that, you would be more respected in some of these, again, these computer-generated ranking systems that people have, nationwide now.
The numbers don't like you. They just don't like you. Maybe they don't like your sideline demeanor. I don't know.
And the people punching the numbers, maybe they don't either.
They might not like you. That's true. By the way, after seeing you earlier in the year a couple times with a not healthy Rob Edwards, I think I saw you without him and then once with him, but he wasn't healthy. When he's healthy, and I think I said this to you as we were walking out in wherever we were, L.A., you needed a shooter. And I was like, all right, is he a big-time shooter? Obviously, I hadn't seen him much from Cleveland State. How much does he change your entire team?
Well, I mean, Dan saw him when he was at Rhode Island, played against him as we were recruiting Rob, and just we gathered as much information as we could. But when he got to campus and was in our practices last year, I said it was part of the reason that I thought we had as good a year as we had last year. We had Zylan Cheatham and Rob Edwards every day on the second unit, pushing that first unit. And, I knew that as we lost Trey Holder and Shannon Evans and Cody Justice, that Rob Edwards would cushion the blow of losing guys like that I knew he could put points on the board. And, going through an injury like he had to go through, being out for almost a month, right in the heart of the practice and the beginning part of the stages of the season, and to have sat out the year before, it just takes time. And, he struggled through the Nevada game and even the Georgia game and started playing well in the second half versus Vandy. And, he was one of the best players on the floor in that game, just, clutch shots. And, he's born to just put the ball in the basket.
Well, listen, I appreciate you guys both coming on. This was good round two. We will do it again next year. And the one thing I came out of this whole thing with is, why don't we do like a Bob versus Dan Hurley, like Tiger versus Phil? Like, I'm not putting up $9 million. Maybe I'll put up like $9. And I don't know how many people will give a shit about watching it, but I think it'd be entertaining.
And then what we
I think doing, Bob, for the right cause, Bob, for the right charity, right? For the right cause and the right charity is brutal and it's miserable
Would
and
you do
painful. If it was for the right, if somebody ever came up with the right charity and for the right, cause for people, like, I think we would both consider it, but no one's.
I'm going to work on this. Bob, are you in if we come up with the right charity?
I don't think there's a market for it, Jeff, to be honest. So,
there probably isn't.
I just don't think. But I just don't think there's going to be no three refs that want to ref it. You'll have to pay those. I mean,
your dad is going to ref it.
Yeah, I mean, that would be that'd be brutal. I guess.
I'm putting up right now $500 to charity. If you guys do this, seriously, I'm not kidding. $500 from me to charity, with your dad reffing it and the two of you playing. I'm in. So I'm going to work on this. You think I'm kidding, but I'm going to work on this.
All right, Jeff. Yeah, keep me in the loop on that. Let me know how it's going.
We'll see the market. We will see the market for this.
Let my basketball administrator know how that's progressing.
I will. Absolutely. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and
Merry Christmas.
Soon. Thanks, guys.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Take care, guys. Another edition of Good and Plenty here in the books. Thanks for joining me again every Tuesday, every Thursday. Good and Plenty comes to you, and we thank our guests this week, Bobby and Danny Hurley. Always entertaining, telling stories. We'll have them on every single year. Annual affair with the Hurley brothers. Maybe we can get Bob Hurley on as well. Remember, subscribe to the podcast iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcast, CLNS Media. You can find me at Goodman Hoops on Twitter. You can also find me at watchstadium.com. And remember to come back next Tuesday, Thursday, every week. Good and plenty. Give us your reviews. We'll take them. And again, happy holidays.
Hey sports fans, I'm Coach Nick of the B-Ball Breakdown podcast on the CLNS Media Network. I break down the NBA from a coach's perspective and have some of the best basketball minds join me weekly to discuss the latest NBA news and what's truly going on the court. Subscribe to the B-Ball Breakdown podcast wherever you get your podcasts or find us on clnsmedia.com. It's a great conversation. You in?